Hello and welcome. My name is Jan Elfers, and I'm the president of Ecumenical Ministries of Oregon for another couple of weeks anyway. Back in February, I announced my retirement from EMO. I'm so sad to be leaving this work I love, but I'm excited for my next season of life and for EMO's future, which is very bright.
Well, Jan, you're going to be missed by all of us. You've done a beautiful job as president. We are grateful for you, and I just want to be clear, I've got more work for you to do. So my name is Pastor J.W. Matt Hennessy. I'm the senior servant at Vancouver Avenue First Baptist Church here in Portland, and recently completed my 11th non-consecutive years as a board member at EMO. Most recently, I co-chaired the board with the Reverend Linda Jaramillo, who is now our immediate past chair.
Well, Pastor Hennessy, you will be missed very much as well. But this event isn't about us. It's about telling stories of hope and resilience. We're calling this evening Light in the Tunnel, Stories of Hope and Resilience from Oregon's faith community. When accepting the Nobel Peace Prize in 1986, Holocaust survivor Elie Wiesel said this about his time in a concentration camp during the Holocaust. People say occasionally that there must be light at the end of the tunnel, but I believe in those times there was light in the tunnel. The strange way there was hope, human hope, in the death camps. Simply an anonymous prisoner giving a piece of his bread to someone who was hungrier than he or she, a father shielding his child, a mother trying to hold back her tears so her children would not see her pain. That was courage.
Now, obviously, very few of us have experienced the kind of trauma that Mr. Wiesel experienced in Auschwitz. But I think we can learn from his wise words about hope. When it's hard to see light at the end of the tunnel, we have to look for light in the tunnel.
And it's been a very hard year in Oregon. Racial reckoning, political unrest, wildfires, and of course the COVID-19 pandemic. It can be easy to despair. It can be easy to focus on all that's difficult.
It's very true, but Mr. Wiesel reminds us to look for light, even in the darkest tunnel. That is what we've dedicated this time together to do today.
We'd like to begin by sharing a video that casts some vision for who EMO is and the kind of work we do. We believe deeply in this work and invite all people of faith and goodwill to partner with us. Throughout this evening, if you're so inclined, we want to invite you to support EMO financially.
The truth is, my friends, that EMO doesn't exist without all the people watching this right now. People who rally around our vision to bring people together and to serve our neighbors.
There are a number of ways you can give tonight, and we'll remind you about these methods of giving as the night goes on. You can always mail a check to the address on the screen, and of course you can give online at emoregon.org/light. And tonight you can also give via text by texting the word LIGHT to 855-497-2133. You'll be sent a link where you can enter in your giving information. It's totally secure and easy to use, right on your phone.
We have a goal to raise $40,000 this month, and every new and expanded gift you give is matched by the Collins Foundation dollar for dollar. Let's watch this video that paints the picture of who EMO is and what we do.
Imagine loving people, no matter who they are. Democrat, Republican or independent, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, or no religion at all. Imagine loving people no matter where they come from, what they look like, or who they love. Imagine loving the people everyone else forgets. What if loving people meant walking with them, not rescuing them? What if acts of love didn't come with a bunch of strings attached? After careful calculation, what if we simply put love first?
Well, isn't that wonderful? What a beautiful reminder to put love first.
It really is. You know, as we talked about this event, we wanted to figure out how to highlight the many ways in which people of faith and goodwill around the state are putting love first. We never want to pretend like it's all about EMO. We're proud of the role we get to play in bringing people together and serving our neighbors, but we're also proud of the remarkable work people are doing all over the state to be lights in the tunnel.
That's true. EMO's work isn't about doing everything. Sometimes it's about supporting and celebrating the work faith communities, denominations, and individuals are already doing.
Yes, lifting those stories up as examples for how to love.
We're going to hear stories from Southern Oregon about wildfire relief, Northeast Portland about diverse representation, and Hood River about a winter warming shelter.
We'll hear a story about our Ecumenists of the Year from Yamhill County and the remarkable work of the EMO program, the Northeast Emergency Food Program.
And, my friends, we'll hear some music from a number of churches around the state.
Let's begin with a story featuring my friend Alicia Spidel, who pastors a church in Hood River, followed by a song from Antioch Church in Bend.
Really, in every community, in every county across the state of Oregon, there's a high number of people living with unsheltered homelessness, both in our urban and our rural areas across the state. So Hood River Shelter Services began as a program of Gorge Ecumenical Ministries and was formed as a program of GEM in 2010 after a person here locally died of exposure.
And so one of the former ministers spoke up and said, we're not going to let this happen again. And so she partnered with a variety of other churches here in the area who put it together, and at that time it was based on temperature, and it's transformed immensely since then.
And our basic services include a warm, safe place to sleep, meals, toiletries, and access to showers and laundry, as well as visits on site at the shelter with local resources.
COVID completely changed how the warming shelter operated. We are, as a faith community, we're called to serve those who are the most vulnerable in our community, and the unhoused are. And so we had to, on the shelter end, look at how do we do that in a safe way for those who are unhoused, in a safe way for those who would be staffing it and volunteering. And we had to start from scratch, pretty much.
A lot of us have heard about congregant and non-congregant care facilities during COVID. So non-congregant shelter limits shared breathing space in order to minimize possible exposure to and transmission of the virus. So we decided, I think in June of last year, to move forward with that form of shelter, and we still didn't know what that would look like or how we would make that happen.
Sarah did a bunch of research and discovered that the best way to serve the unhoused during this time of COVID was with pallet shelters. So once this came to be, this was the idea that we could do, that we knew would provide the spacing for those who were unhoused and the warmth and the place that they could be, it was the definite way to go.
The structures themselves are built and installed by people who've experienced homelessness and or incarceration. So it's a career pathway for them through that company. And then also the design of the units is influenced by the ideas of people with lived experience. So that really aligned with our mission. The most positive aspects of having the shelters was our guest comments on what it felt like to be able to close the door at night and have their own private space to sleep. They found them really comfortable and warm, and they were able to have their own private space.
The model of the warming shelter that is present here on our property has worked immensely well, and I would strongly recommend other congregations to see how it would be possible for them.
My hope is that although this has been such a time of hardship, that something that we can take from that is to kind of recalibrate and look at how we can better meet people's needs, not only in our community, but across the state.
Even if challenges arise or outside entities or people question engaging in this kind of ministry, it's important and needed work. And to take a leap of faith and do something like this, it's a blessing and it's needed. We need more people to step up and reach out and break down the stigma and the stereotypes that are there.
All the poor and powerless, and all the lost and lonely, all the thieves will come confess and know that you are holy, and know that you are holy. And all will sing out hallelujah, and we will cry out hallelujah. pretend, and all the feeling worthy, and all who heard with nothing left, and know that you are holy, and all will sing out hallelujah, and we will cry out hallelujah, and all will sing out hallelujah, and we will cry out hallelujah. Shout it, go on and scream it from the mountains, go on and tell it to the masses that He is God. Shout it, go on and scream it from the mountains, go on and tell it to the masses that He is God. Shout it, go on and scream it from the mountains, go on and tell it to the masses that He is God. We will sing out hallelujah, and we will cry out hallelujah, and we will sing out Go on and scream it from the mountains, go on and tell it to the masses that He is God.
What a beautiful song. Oh my gosh. Thanks, Antioch Church, for sharing that with us. And what an inspiring story from Hood River.
You know, Alicia was on our board and still serves on our Community Ministries Committee. We're grateful to her and to the Christian Church, also known as the Disciples of Christ in Oregon and Southwest Idaho, for being such great partners over the years. Their conference is one of our sponsors for this event. In fact, we have a lot of wonderful sponsors for this event. You'll see their names on the screen right now. This event was sponsored by many of our partner denominations, as well as local businesses and a number of generous individuals. Thank you so very much for your sponsorship. We couldn't have produced this event without your support.
Yes, thank you so much. Next, we're going to hear a story coming out of Northeast Portland. We're going to learn about Leroy Barber's Black Santa project. Let's check it out.
I want my kid to know and see hope in the eyes of a Black person. I am the Director of Innovation for an Engaged Church for the United Methodist Church here in the greater Northwest area. I am also co-founder of the Voices Project that my wife and I founded 11 years ago. And we work with leaders of color. We train and promote leaders of color around the country. And I am Black Santa. About 4 years ago, we were working with some children. We're doing some stuff with some mentorship, and it was coming up at Christmas time, and I was like, "Hey, is there a Santa? Like, would y'all be into a Black Santa showing up?" And the principal was like, "Yes, we would love that." And so that first year we had about 100 families show up, and then the next year we had about 500, and it's been consistently that for the last 4 years, which is astounding to me. We didn't think we were going to be able to do Black Santa this year because of COVID, right? And there was no way I was going to have to be able to sit down with 500 kids on my lap during COVID. And so we thought we were going to have to cancel. We're in a meeting, and literally a friend, he finds this snow globe that was big enough for a person to get in. And he's like, "Check this out. I think that can work. I could go in it, you can breathe." And it was warm, actually. Like, people outside were cold, but I was warm the whole time. The picture that became most famous is Santa putting his hand up to the wall and a kid doing that. Let's get a flatbed and put the globe on a flatbed, tie it down. Traffic was backed up for miles. Adults, not children, adults like, "Yay, hey Santa," right? So this parade down Division for a couple miles was one of the highlights. When you live in a place, and I'm not, this isn't a negative on where we live, right? But we live in a place where majority culture is majority, like 70 whatever percent it is of Portland that's white, right? And you're raising children. Your children never see or rarely see themselves in the positive roles in their lives. So their teacher, right? Their coach, right? Their doctors, all of these things that represent good and that children look up to and celebrate, they don't see themselves in those places. And so that, in essence, it takes that thing off the table. They can't see themselves being that because they don't see anybody like them in those roles. And so I think that's what representation, like, that's why it matters, so that people can see themselves in roles in the future. And if that thing connects with them, they can move towards it knowing there's a place for them. And so Santa, being the mythical figure, but still one that is important in the life of a kid. And so to see a Santa that looks like them, which Santa represents this gift giver, something good in the world, bringing joy and peace, it makes sense that a parent would want their kid to have that figure look like them. If people of faith can represent for people what Black Santa represents, and that is this person that cares for them, that through this idea of bringing love, joy, hope, mystery, right? A smile to your face and represents you, man, like, let's do that as people of faith. Let's get out of some of the business that we're in and just get in the business of showing up for people and representing love, joy, peace, hope, and a mystery experience of sorts. I think that could change the world, especially if people see themselves represented in it.
I love that challenge to people of faith. I think he's right that when we focus on representing love, joy, peace, and hope for people, it can change the world.
I so agree with you. Another great example of this is found in our very own Northeast Emergency Food Program. We wanted to focus on some non-EMO stories in this event, but also wanted to tell some stories coming directly out of EMO.
Yes, all of our programs have been incredible in light of the challenges we've faced in the last year. We have an amazing team running our direct service programs, and they're led by some truly remarkable people. Caroline, Russ, Andrew, Taylor, Vesna, Anya, AJ, Jenny, Howard, and Chris.
I say yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. A very special group of people. We wanted to tell the story of NEFP, not because it's better than any other program, but because they've seen unprecedented growth since the COVID-19 shutdown.
It is truly a remarkable story. Watch this.
$758,288 people times 50 pounds. That's just north of 37 million pounds of food. Rolled out of the basement, the social hall, and the parking lot of this church. Many of our clients have to make very, very difficult decisions, particularly recently in the last year or so. Not even the choice of rent, or it's, are my children or myself, are we going to eat at all? COVID has been a wake-up call. So for us at NEFP, we have had to pivot. We have had to adapt and to learn how to move in many different directions and do a lot of different things simultaneously. The need for services here has grown well over 1,000%. There are more people turning to us for assistance than we ever would have imagined possible. And while many people celebrate, wow, you guys are doing such good work, we step back and say, okay, it's great to celebrate that in 14 months, yeah, we've served 758,288 people out of the basement of a church. Okay, but let that sink in for a minute. What do we really want to celebrate? That many people needed to be served? I choose to celebrate the community that's come together to help us build the capacity to serve that many people. But the fact that that many people needed to be served, I don't know that I want to celebrate that fact. I think that tells us that we've got a long way to go to figuring out how do we really help people, because there's no end in sight. We're going to hit 1 million people served by the end of 2021. And that's not going to happen because people keep bringing food, although food is needed. But it's going to be the people that move the vision forward. It's going to be the people who help get it going and keep NEFP moving. And every volunteer, every donor, even the people who have never set foot on the property here, the people who see a post on Facebook and say, hey, I want to give to that. Hey, I want to support in some small way. There is no such thing as a small way. The people who say, I just want to say a prayer for the people who are doing the work, hashtag We Are NEFP, because we all are doing this together. Each individual, each time we distribute food, gets 50 pounds of food. So you do the math. 758,288 times 50. That gives you just over 37 million pounds of food. Through the basement and the parking lot of that little church. That's unheard of. Who does that? There are factories that don't do that. But we do that. And we're going to keep doing that until we can't do that anymore. Because that's what NEFP is. It's who we are. It's not what we do, but it's who we are.
I'm consistently inspired by AJ and all our program managers. They really have been lights in the tunnel. I especially appreciate her reminder that there is a certain amount of grief that comes from seeing how great the need really is.
Absolutely. At NEFP, they don't turn anyone away. All our programs put love first. It doesn't matter who you are, EMO will find a way to help.
And we couldn't do that without the support of everyone watching right now. We've served more people than ever in the last year. And it has been more expensive than ever.
It's the reality of this kind of work. It costs money to feed over 700,000 people, literally 10 times the usual number. It takes a lot of time and energy to bring together interfaith leaders for the common table, to advocate and organize for our creation justice work, and to gather faith communities statewide for our reckoning with racism.
Yes, and it takes a lot of time to do the kind of political advocacy we do. And we've had some incredible victories already this legislative session. Our public policy director, Britt Conroy, works tirelessly to build bridges and to advocate for a more just and sustainable Oregon.
If you believe in this kind of work, we want to invite you to support it financially. We know that asking for money on a screen can feel kind of funny, especially as a preacher. But the truth is, I consider it a privilege to ask you to support this work. Remember, you can give online and via text right now.
And now let's hear a song from my friend, the incomparable Marilyn Keller.
You are hearing through your ears, but listen with your heart. We are coming together since we've been forced to stay apart. All this social distancing forces a reset, maybe choosing a phone call instead of writing a text. Perhaps the virus can serve as a teacher. Pay attention, notice the lessons. Don't you see they are clear as can be? Pay attention, notice the lessons. What touches life
lives in 25 other countries ends up affecting American me. So turn off the TV and have a conversation. Find some reasons for laughter to share just what you really feel. And with those infected dying, alone and in pain, it's a solemn reminder to cherish all that is real. Please help us remember, please help us to see. Pay attention, notice the lessons, don't you see? They are clear as can be. Pay attention, notice the lessons, what touches lives in 25 other countries ends up affecting me. It is what we do as individuals that make us a community. Laid off workers making do with simpler lives. Bored children rediscover creativity. Those in China and LA can see blue skies, and Italians on their porches sing in solidarity. Pay attention, notice the lessons, don't you see? They are clear as can be. Pay attention, notice the lessons, what touches lives in 25 other countries ends up affecting me. You are hearing through your ears and listening with your heart. We are finally together 'cause we were forced to stay apart. Notice the lessons, we're together. Listen with your heart, your heart.
Marilyn, thank you so much. Wow, as always, a beautiful job. Thank you for sharing your talent with us.
This event is replacing our annual dinner, where we celebrate the work of many in our state and enjoy a great meal together. One of our traditions at the annual dinner is to present an award for the Ecumenist of the Year.
This award is designed to acknowledge someone who embodies the spirit of ecumenism. In other words, we try to honor bridge builders, people who embody a spirit of understanding and respect, people who are eager to see us work toward a more just and unified Oregon.
Today we're honoring a married couple as our Ecumenists of the Year. Edith and Randy Woodley are very special people who live out their faith prophetically with wisdom and with grace. Let's hear directly from them about their work and their vision for our world.
I am Edith Woodley, and I am a co-sustainer with my husband Randy here at Eloheh.
So my name is Randy Woodley, and Edith and I co-host Eloheh Indigenous Center for Earth Justice and Eloheh Farm and Seeds. This place is 10 acres in Yamhill County, actually outside of Yamhill, Oregon, and our whole idea is to sort of live and inhabit our understanding of our purpose on earth, which is to be a co-sustainer of the earth. And we do that in a number of practical ways, and we also teach and invite people out so that they can be a part of the land and understand the spirituality of what Creator has given us on the land here.
Co-sustainers with the earth and not fight against it. And like so many people now do, you know, they like, oh, I can subdue the earth and make it mine, and it's nothing, it's just a piece of ground, right? But no, it's alive.
So if you look around right now, we're just in a little field, big grandmother oak, probably 350, 400-year-old tree behind us there. You see all kinds of grasses. You don't see one kind of grass. If you did and disease comes, that would be unhealthy. So what do we learn? We learn about diversity. If you just look in like a square yard here, I'll bet you there's probably 30 different kinds of things growing right here. And they're all helping each other. And so everything is alive, and it all helps one another. So Mother Earth is our foremost and most continuous teacher on earth here. And we just have a short time to learn. And so for us, it's like we're trying to break the back of this sort of extraction mentality with the earth and have people have an experience out here that changes their lives and their worldview and their attitudes. I ride a lot. I probably am a much better rider than a speaker. So I'm also a professor at George Fox Seminary, now called Portland Seminary, part of George Fox University. And my title is Distinguished Professor of Faith and Culture. I teach a lot of different things, including world religions. I try to help them understand, to get past that sort of initial us-them mentality, right? So if we constantly view people as different from us, then, you know, it takes some really breaking down the walls to get to a place where you can accept the differences. But one of the things you can do right away is to show the humanity, the common humanity that we all experience. For us as Native people, that's easy because that's what we're taught. Our spirituality is our limitedness as human beings. That's where humility comes from, is to understand that, you know, we all need help. We all need help from one another, and in that sense, we're all alike. One of the greatest experiences that we've had since we've been in Oregon is to participate in the Common Table.
I'm learning as I sit in the different Common Table retreats that they've had, the couple that they've had, I've been able to sit and listen to each of these different people talk, and I'm able to see their beauty of how they feel, and their beauty in their faith.
If we were only theorizing about how we should live, I guess we'd be called ethicists, but instead we're farmers. and so we get our nails dirty, and we work hard, and we work with the land, and we get out into creation, and we listen, and we watch, and we learn, and then we just share that with people, and then we watch people go on and share that with other people.
and we love it, and we want other people to love it, and we want them to share. We want to share with them. And so
our farm motto is plant, harvest,
plant, grow,
harvest, share.
So yeah,
plant, grow, harvest, share.
Well, that was wonderful. We're so grateful for Edith and Randy and the great work that they're doing. As the video said, if you're inspired by their work, we encourage you to get involved and to even support them financially. You can learn more at eloheh.org.
And right now, it is my privilege to present the 2021 Ecumenist of the Year Award to Edith and Randy Woodley. Thank you for shining as a bright light to all Oregonians, showing us what is possible when we open our hearts and open our minds.
So we are very grateful to be given this award. We wondered if they made a mistake at first, but realized that we're working like other people, trying to bring about good things among other people who are different than us, and sort of teach that as a life lesson. And so it feels good for that to be recognized. There are probably lots of other people that deserve it more than us, but we're grateful nonetheless. And thank you, EMO, for what you're doing, and for honoring us with this. We're grateful.
thank you so much. This is very I don't know. I just feel very appreciated for what you guys are honoring us with, and it's just kind of hard to put it in words for me, but so I just want to say thank you from my heart. Thanks.
Before we hear a brief reflection from Randy on hope, we're going to hear one more story, this time from Southern Oregon.
As you know, the wildfire season in Oregon this last year was terrible. At times, the entire state was stifled under the smoke, but no one was hit harder than our friends in Southern Oregon.
Let's hear from folks who were right there in the midst of the struggle.
Have you ever had one of those dreams that things have just kind of gone bizarre and everything feels like it's in slow motion and hazy and foggy, and well, that's what it was like.
We were 3 miles away from Canada. You know, we had limited access to news. We knew that there was a fire going on, and within a couple of days, we knew how bad it was because we got a beautiful view of mountains just a mile away across the valley, and the valley filled up with smoke from everything that was burning over here. We knew it was bad, and that was scary.
But one of the things I think we need to keep in mind is that we've experienced and are still experiencing 4 traumatic events in the past year. There's been the political turmoil that's happened. There's been the racial tensions and issues that are happening, COVID, and then the fire.
Shortly after I got back, I connected with my lead in UMCOR, Dan Mosler, and we started mobilizing UMCOR resources with the local relief hubs to bring in supplies.
People were bringing food in for the relief centers and hubs, bringing clothing in, whatever was needed.
We brought the school supplies to the schools for them to pass out to the kids. They were just so very appreciative of that. And the cleaning supplies, they would fly off the shelf. I could not believe it.
Just the acts of hospitality as a reflex, it was second nature for them to respond to folks in need that they knew.
Relief is not just providing the physical, needs, but relief is also supporting the emotional need people have, and they just need to be heard, just need to be listened to, and that was going on.
I volunteered at the Talent Hub, and several of the volunteers there had lost everything, and they were there helping the others. I get choked up. I mean, we're talking about resiliency, and that's very amazing, but we can't forget the despondency that is also here. There are people have been without a home for months and really don't know what to do. So there are a lot of issues that we still face, especially in the areas of spiritual and emotional care.
God's love is very present, throughout this. The people that are involved in this are tired.
The power of Christ incarnate in people, and how they're so understanding and so compassionate despite the fatigue, and continue to help. That is amazing. A disaster is a marathon. It's not a short sprint. And this may not be the race any of us thought we would be in, but we're in it. And so we're going to see it through to the end.
Fount of every blessing, tune my heart to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. Teach me some melodious sonnet sung by flaming tongues above. Praise his name, I'm fixed upon it, name of God's redeeming love. Hitherto thy love has blessed me, thou hast brought me to this place, and I know thy hand will bring me safely home by thy good grace. Jesus sought me when a stranger, wandering from the fold of God, he to rescue me from
A special thanks to Brett and Barry for sharing their story with us, and to the United Methodist Church for the work they're doing and for sponsoring this event.
That story pretty much defines what it means to be a light in the tunnel.
Before we hear again from Professor Woodley, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the Reverend Dr. J.W. Matt Hennessy for his many years of service to EMO. We have this small token of appreciation. It reads, presented to the Reverend Dr. J.W. Matt Hennessy, with gratitude and in recognition of his many years of service and excellent board leadership at Ecumenical Ministries of Oregon, presented in May of 2021. And what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God? Micah 6.
That's wonderful. Do you mind if I hug you? We've both been
We're fully vaccinated.
Both been vaccinated,
yes.
So I am so grateful. This means so much to me. This organization has meant so much to me for these number of years, and I really want to say thank you to you, Jan, and for your great work. Thank you to the board and to the staff and administration of EMO. I am really, really grateful for this. It's been a gift to be able to serve EMO these past years, and I want to acknowledge you as an extremely blessed person, one that we have been blessed to work with, to see you grow. I still remember you saying that one of the hardest things that you were concerned about being the head of EMO was to have to speak in public. And every time you speak in public, you bring us all to tears. It's always good, it's always authentic, truly from the heart. And it's very difficult to think of EMO without you, but we are grateful to you, to Mick, and your children for loaning you to us for these very many years. And we pray that you have a great retirement, and just know that people like me are going to be calling on you anyway. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I
It has
appreciate
been such an honor, and really the best part of my life to be in EMO for the last 18 years, and starting as an intern. And you're right, really finding my voice, and thanks to so many wonderful people around me, encouraging me, praying for me, and knowing that it's not about me, it's about the greater good. It's about the service we do, and advocacy we do, and the ways we build bridges and bring people together. I'm so honored to work with the board, the staff, and really inspired by the clients that come to our programs. So it is bittersweet to be leaving, but I really feel excited about the future of EMO, and now more than ever, the voice of the faith community is needed in our state. So I'm excited to see the future for this organization. It's bright.
It's wonderful. If you'd like to learn more about Jan's transition, you can find a 20-minute video on our YouTube channel where she discusses her transition in detail.
Now let's go back to Eloheh and hear from Professor Woodley. I've been looking forward to hearing what he has to say.
CEO, Edith and I are grateful for your invitation to receive the Ecumenist of the Year award and to speak to you today. We know personally what it's like to see a future seemingly without hope, as do our indigenous peoples in North America. We would like to share with you the context of our experience. James Baldwin said, American history is longer, larger, more various, more beautiful, and more terrible than anything anyone has ever said about it. And we know this to be true. From my own observations, how we view history informs our worldview for today and in the future. We incorporate our view of history into our present reality. When teaching history courses to college and graduate students, I always begin with this same claim. There is no such thing as history, only histories. Well, here's a summary of one of our histories as told by Martin Luther King Jr. He said, "Our nation was born in genocide. We are perhaps the only nation which tried as a matter of national policy to wipe out its indigenous population. Moreover, We elevated that tragic experience into a noble crusade. Indeed, even today, we have not permitted ourselves to reject or feel remorse for this shameful episode. Progress, civilization, modernity, the European invasion and Western migration are often described by words such as these. The Western goal of progress through the centuries was to civilize indigenous peoples. Yet the irony is that advanced civilizations already existed among the first Americans when the settlers arrived. Indigenous peoples had developed systems of science, language, rhetoric, mathematics, medicine, surgeries, ecologies, humanities, law, complex peacemaking strategies, architecture, and economic systems. Most Europeans simply didn't recognize indigenous civilization as such because they failed to see us as human. People frequently ask me why they have never been taught about the great Native American civilizations and achievements in their contributions to the world. My answer is always the same. You weren't supposed to know. Our national myths, our history, has been designed on purpose with intent. So people never learn about these things that would make us human. Our own personal story of how we came to Oregon is just as tragic. And though I don't have time to go into detail, suffice it to say this. Our first iteration of Eloheh on 50 acres in Kentucky was disrupted after several years of successful outreach and community building by a group of paramilitary white supremacists who, with a 50 caliber machine gun, eventually forced us off our land. We could find no help from the federal, local, or state governments. But that's what brought us to Oregon. In some ways, at least for my wife, our story is also a return to Oregon. In the early days of the fur trappers in the Pacific Northwest, my wife's people, the Shoshone, in particular her group, the Dosawit or White Knives Shoshone, and Paiute, inhabited much of what we know today as Oregon, Idaho, and Nevada. One of the ways they made their living was by hunting big game such as deer, antelope, bison, bighorn sheep. As the 19th century arose, fur companies began sending out fur trappers and establishing forts as centers for business. The new visitors traveled the Indian trails and followed the rivers and streams where they were easily observed by the indigenous people. What did they see? The Shoshone, the Paiute, and other Indians could not believe what they saw. As long as there were animals left to kill, the Westerners would kill them all day long. Then they'd leave the majority of the meat to rot on the prairie. Major James McLaughlin, often referred to as the father of Oregon, said, "I have never known an Indian to kill a game animal that he did not require for his needs. And I have known few white hunters to stop while there was still game to kill." This looks like hopelessness. The malicious destruction of big game for no other reason but sport was unimaginable to the Shoshone and other tribal peoples who themselves depended on nature's abundance for their survival. The Shoshone and other tribes understood the disruption of the natural world that this represented. They knew that if left unchecked, such practices would eventually lead to their starvation and to ecological ruin. The correlation between the new Northwest settlers treating nature and people as the other is striking. One fur trapper, Jim Beckworth, recorded his party taking 488 Bannock Indian scalps in one day. His victims were of all ages and genders, and his party left not one man, woman, or child alive. Beckworth wrongly assumed that he had wiped out the whole Bannock tribe. Unfortunately, this pattern of the destruction of the indigenous people and the natural world has been repeated all over America and even the whole world. When indigenous people resisted their own destruction, subjugation, or the theft of their lands, they were considered the problem. Those who oppressed them created narratives that justified their own actions, and these narratives became our myths or the history that informs the worldview of the settler colonizer. The destruction of various indigenous people groups has been horrendous, as is the assault on the whole community of creation. For more than 5 centuries, indigenous people across the world had their land, labor, and resources stolen and were systematically denied their human rights. The doctrine of discovery and the international laws based on it made this massive theft permissible to the settlers, who often enacted the violence. The idea of racial superiority became socially acceptable, and the results are that America's host people, along with the whole earth, now stand in peril. In the Americas, that idea became full-throated white supremacy. The colonial results were genocide and land theft. The neo-colonial results of white supremacy on indigenous peoples in North America that we continue to suffer are poverty, disease, and premature death. Today, Native Americans remain among the most affected by poverty, disease, and early death, all of which continue the colonial legacy. Yet, despite more than 500 years of violence and subjugation, we are still here. And in light of that background that I just summarized, to hold on to hope under such duress is an astonishing feat. American exceptionalism and its progeny, the American dream, contains an ethic of extreme competition and consistent legacy of violence against Native Americans and others. It is indeed still a shadowy future for many of us. Yet some of the greatest leaders of all time often realize the reality of hope in the midst of bleak and horrendous eras. Jesus, Buddha, Guru Nanak, Sojourner Truth, Black Kettle, Mahatma Gandhi, Dorothy Day, Martin Luther King Jr., and others call us to harmony, to peace through various narratives. They call us to hope. Like the indigenous peoples of America, these leaders observe the worst of life. And because of that, they tell a story that makes us all better human beings. Each told a better story than the dominant myth, than the history. Each gave hope of a better way forward. How do we hear a better story to replace the half-truths of history? We listen to people with a different view who tell us another side of history. We listen to their pain and we listen to their hope. We listen to our shared histories. The fact that remains that we live our lives according to our myths, our narratives. We find what fits in such a myth and we make that myth part of our own personal story. We leave out the histories that don't fit our myths, like genocide and ecocide. But if we leave out any part of the story, we leave out the histories and we only distort reality. In this moment in which we live, we have the opportunity to counter those myths that claim to be the only history. In spite of all the turmoil we are now experiencing, actually because of it, we have the opportunity to change. We have the opportunity to hope. If indigenous people carry within us the trauma of genocide over all these generations, I believe we also carry the cure, and not just the cure for ourselves, but for others as well. Actionable wisdom has been the hope of the survival of indigenous peoples and others who have suffered so much. Actionable hope offers the key to healing our world. The values kept since time immemorial are the same ones that will heal the earth and heal our peoples and create peace. Our harmonious worldview in and of itself brings hope. Mutual respect, generosity, hospitality, inclusion, relatedness to all creation, cooperation, wisdom, humor. These are the hopeful sureties that we need today to heal ourselves and to heal the earth, the whole community of creation. Together, Let's explore these ancient values in our minds and hearts. Let us listen to what those great leaders have taught us. But most importantly, we must exercise those values today. This is the wisdom of hope. Hope merely left as a thought only becomes despair. Hope must be active. Let's remember to listen to people different than ourselves, those who share other histories. May we pay attention to the resilience and hope we find in other stories. Even in the harshest reality, hope can be exercised. And that's how we make hope a reality. Thank you.
Wow, what a great reminder. I love that phrase, actionable hope. I will definitely be using that in a sermon soon. Really wonderful.
Yes, both he and Edith have so much wisdom to offer. I want to once again remind everyone of the opportunity to support the work of EMO. There are a number of ways you can give, through the mail, online, or via text.
We want you to know how important you are to us. Without you, there would be no Interfaith Advocacy Day, no HIV services, SOAR refugee resettlement, Metro home share, Second Home, SOAR immigration legal services, Russian Oregon social services, or any of the other remarkable programs and services of EMO. If EMO went away tomorrow, a lot of people would miss it. That's just the reality.
We need you, and I want to humbly invite you to get involved. Every new and increased gift tonight will be matched by the Collins Foundation, which means your support can go even further. In addition, we're always looking for volunteers to get involved.
My friends, it's been humbling to be a part of a movement of people who are doing so much to make Oregon and our world a more just and sustainable place for everyone. Thank you again, and thank you to all of our sponsors.
The link to this video will be up for 1 month, and we'd love to have you share these stories with your friends and neighbors.
And we're live on Facebook. So if you're on that platform, please like and share again and again and again.
Thanks, everyone. I love each of you and so appreciate your kind support. Thanks for being with us. I'll see you soon.